Yeah, I think for me the two dominant emotions in seeing that image and then hearing what you're sharing about other folks who've come to rally around it or defend it or whatnot. I mean, one there's three dominant emotions. There's anger. I think right off the bat, um, I feel a visceral anger because it seems so contradictory, like just bizarrely absurd contradictory to you know what we obviously see in the scripture. um there's just a sense of just bewilderment, like who came up with this idea? Why did they think this was a good idea? What like I'm just genuinely deeply confused. um why would this be what you would want to do as a response to the protests around um, racial discrimination and the death of George Floyd? And why is this your response? And why do you think this is a good idea? So I'm there's an anger, there's a confusion, but I think underneath the anger is a grief. Like I'm just really sad. Um, and I'm really sad, obviously for the pain that is just so visible that that we all know that there's been discrimination long before these recent deaths, that it's been a part of the fabric of society. But the grief that's being exposed, but also the, I guess, a personal grief of people that I love and care for, who yeah, might see that image of Donald holding that Bible and say, "Yep, that's the guy I'm with. That's my guy. Woo!" And just feeling like this divide between us is just ballooning, to a point where it's getting to a point where it feels like we're speaking completely different languages. Like we can't even talk anymore because it's just crazy. And so it's just a lot of grief for me. It feels like a loss, a lot of loss. I feel like often in the UCC, at least, well, at some points, at different points in my time in the UCC, I feel like there's been a message of we're Christians, but not like those Christians. And there's always need to be this caveat to it. And I'm tired of having to put a caveat or feeling like I need to caveat. I need to put an asterisk by my faith or by what I call myself because of incidents like this, because of things like this, which to me are just so beyond the pale. And to the bizarre thing, yeah, like what was the video I'd watched where at his press conference right before this, he had literally said, "I'm an ally to peaceful protesters," and then they literally used violence to move peaceful protesters out of the way in order to do this. Like, you're right on the money. It would be comical if there wasn't so much at stake, if it wasn't touching on such a deep wound. The bizarre nature of it, it's just mind-boggling. And I guess processing the feelings of confusion, anger, grief is one thing. I don't yet know. I'm still working on, okay, so what do you do with that? Where do you go? What's the redemptive call, or I don't want to get stuck in a loop of my own feelings, right? Um, I want to push forward. And that's partly what I meant when I said I I was hoping to have more time to think about this today, because I don't want to just get stuck in loop. I want to see hope. I want to move towards hope. I want to hear and speak some sort of redemptive word, because that's what I believe in, that there's a redemptive something. So David, you always talk about the good news. Maybe you have it. Maybe you have the redemptive word.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a weird time of existence. I mean, it's not just one thing, it's many things happening all at the same moment in time. So you have COVID and the kind of leveling of not just America, but worldwide in the response to it. And now we're seeing, the different responses to the closures that, people are saying that their rights have been violated personally, and kind of that self-oriented perspective that's about me and my rights, not about our rights and what's best for us. This morning I was talking to a friend whose father-in-law has historically been, using terms like these, but like ultra conservative. And he said, he came by their house, they live in Georgia, and said, what do you think about all this that's going on with these, protests and riots and all this other stuff? And they got in this conversation, and the father-in-law stated that, I am a white man who grew up in an affluent home in the Atlanta area, has run a phenomenally successful business, and has made more money than he'll ever be able to spend, kind of situation. Yesterday was the first time he ever said, I'm starting to begin to understand where their anger is coming from. And I have to start looking at how I've lived my life and see how I've either helped perpetuate my privilege or ignored those that don't have privilege. And as he was sharing that with me, it reminded me of Martin Luther King quote, right? That the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Is this a moment where enough people are so fed up, not just with a politician, but with the culture that we're living in, that we say enough? Like, this is not the best of what America is. This is not the best of what supposedly the freest country in the world is demonstrating. But that enough of this, that people begin to actually look at themselves and the roles that they've played, either directly and oftentimes indirectly, in this cycle that has continued since the beginning of our founding of our country.